Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today we're taking a look at VRLA Tech again because they updated their site a little bit ago, and I wanted to kind of talk about the value and all that other stuff of their PCs and what they actually changed and what you might want to do with all the new PCs that have come out. So that's what we're talking about today. But before we get into it, if you guys end up watching most of the video and like it, please leave a like. It really helps me out as a content creator. If you guys want to subscribe, that really helps me out as well. And something that our community has kind of put together to help you guys out as viewers is the channel Discord, which is going to be linked down in the description. You guys can go in there and ask all of your tech questions that you might have. It's a really great environment for you guys just to sit down and talk tech, and I'm on there fairly often. So if you guys want to have some direct communication with me, it's also a great place to do that. All right, so my initial video about VRLA Tech was them versus LYTE game PCs. I thought that LYTE game PCs was the best value option out there. But then once I checked out their PCs and their prices and their specs, it was just kind of like, wow, LYTE Tech just really isn't that good compared to what this company is offering. So now they recently updated their website to add some brand new features and some brand new parts to a lot of their game PCs, as well as adding a brand new game PC to their lineup. Now, their original one was the Vulkan. This is a $400 game PC, and this one I talked about a good amount for people who are just looking to get into gaming. Now, with this PC, they haven't changed anything really. They've kept the same processors, same amount of storage, same amount of RAM, all the same thing. But the Rogue was a lot of people's go-to because the $600 price range is really appetizing to a lot of people. It's the basic amount of money that people are willing to spend on a game PC because it's at a certain price point where most people can afford it, and it's kind of in that console killer space where you can be playing games better than what you're going to be able to play on a console. So the old model of this used to have a i7 2600, which was a second generation Core i7. So it was fairly dated, but the new processor that is in it is an AMD Ryzen 3 3200G. Now, both of these processors are roughly on the same spectrum of performance. They both have roughly the same single core and multi-core performance. You can go look up Cinebench test runs of them. They are basically the same thing. Now, they also changed the GPU, which is an AMD RX 570. They changed that from a GTX 1060 3GB card. So basically, these cards are roughly around the same amount of performance. You're going to have a little bit more VRAM with the AMD Radeon RX 570 than the GTX 1060 3GB card. Now, in terms of performance in games, you're just going to see kind of a give and take kind of thing between those two GPUs. The RX 570 is going to offer you better performance in games that use the Vulkan engine or are using a newer API. A lot of times AMD stuff is more optimized for those kind of APIs, but in terms of NVIDIA stuff, those are very much more optimized for DirectX 11 games. So those are more current or somewhat older APIs. So we didn't really see a performance bump with these new parts, but the great thing about this is that the amount of upgradability that you have now with your new PC. So instead of on the last one where you basically were at a dead end of being able to upgrade your processor and stuff like that, you now have an AMD Ryzen 3 3200G, and then you've got an MSI A320MA Pro board. Now this can go all the way up to Ryzen 3rd gen. So basically you're going to be able to use all the way up to a Ryzen 7 3700X, which is a really great processor. Now again, your motherboard really isn't meant to handle that kind of a CPU, but if you're really looking just not to upgrade anything else and just get the most value out of it, you can probably get up to a Ryzen 7 3700X. Now the other great thing about it is the RAM capacity. Now it already comes with 16GB of RAM, which is more than enough than what most people need in order to play their games, as well as just do other multitasking. But again, since it's DDR4, it's going to be a lot cheaper because as of right now, DDR3 is not being made anymore, and there is a finite amount of DDR3 out in the market, and DDR4 is still being made on a fairly high capacity today. So DDR4 is extremely cheap. So if you're looking to upgrade down the line yourself, I mean, RAM is extremely easy to upgrade. So yeah, I mean, this is a much better value system in general because of, you're just kind of keeping the same level of performance, but you're allowing yourself to have more room to upgrade down the line. So the one drawback that they have is that they actually took out the SSD that they originally had in the system. So they used to have a 120GB SSD as your boot drive. So that would make your whole entire system basically run faster. You would boot up a lot faster. You can load programs more faster that were based off of that certain drive. Now, hard drives are usually a fair bit slower than what an SSD is going to offer, and they just kind of took away that on the base configuration. But the nice thing is that you can include a boot drive SSD. It's going to cost you a little bit more, but I definitely think it's going to be worth it if you're considering buying this option. The 256GB SSD is basically what the market rate is for an SSD. Like if you're going to go to a store and buy a 256GB SSD, it's roughly going to cost you around $30. So I think that's definitely definitely worth it because you're not really saving a whole lot of money just doing it yourself. Now to the legacy, there isn't too much of a difference with this machine. They added a different GPU. So the old GPU used to be a AMD RX 580. It's probably one of the better 1080p gaming cards out there in terms of value, but they switched that out for a more current AMD Radeon RX 5500 XT. Now these graphics cards are based off of the new RDNA 2 architecture, which was recently released last year, and this 5500 XT I think was released a couple of months ago. Now in terms of the processor, it's going to be the same thing. I'm pretty sure the storage configuration is roughly the same. I think it might have been 240 gigabytes before, but I think this is still roughly around the same that they had. Now you have an AMD Ryzen 5 2600, an amazing processor at an amazing price point, and you've got a really good motherboard. Now this motherboard's going to be able to upgrade to a bunch of different CPUs. You can go to, you know, kind of anywhere on the spectrum that has its listed support. Just make sure that you have the correct BIOS version if you're going to be updating to a 3rd generation Ryzen processor. Now again, everything is roughly the same. I think this case looks great, and then you do get a 1-year warranty with this machine. So now I'm actually going to skip around just a second because the Legacy is a $800 machine, but there's actually something in between it that I forgot to look at because their website's still kind of messed up at this point. But we're going to take a look at the Aurora. So the Aurora is their brand new gaming computer that they just came out with, that they launched at the $700 price range. It's at $699, and it's basically for people who are just looking for raw FPS in their games for a good amount of money. They're not looking to, you know, do any sort of content creation because the processor is a little bit on the lacking side. It is the 3200G that is in the Rogue. You're not really going to be able to do a whole lot of intensive tasks on it. It's not an amazing processor. It's not nearly as good as the R5 2600, but it is still a good and capable CPU. So this is their newest game PC that they have come out with, but they do specify that it is limited edition and that there are limited quantities available. Now this basically means that they probably don't source a lot of these parts a lot of the time. They probably don't keep a lot of these on hand, that they just had some of them lying around, and they wanted to throw a couple of these gaming computers together. Now we already talked about the processor and the motherboard. Now the RAM is fine. Again, 16 gigabytes is what I would think is standard as of right now. You do have an SSD for your boot drive, but for the graphics card, it's going to be actually roughly the same performance as you're going to be getting with that 5500 XT that was on the Legacy, which was the previous PC that we were talking about. Now the 1650 Super, I wouldn't say is the best graphics card out there, but again, it's actually at a pretty decent price point considering what kind of game PC that they're giving us. So basically the only difference between this PC is going to be the processor and the motherboard. So the only difference between this PC and the Legacy is going to be the processor and the motherboard, which are two fairly important things when you're considering upgrading and having long-term usability, but the processor still is a good processor. If you're just looking to play games and you're not really looking to do a whole lot of other stuff with it, this is a great gaming computer to be buying at this price point. As well, for those of you guys who really care about how your gaming PC looks, they have a bunch of different variants that you can buy this from. This has got the pink, the mint green, the white. They also have the black variant that they don't show on the picture, but they still have it in the selection screen, which doesn't cost any more to have any different colors. I think it all looks great. I mean, you might be rocking the pink if you're looking for that more e-girl vibe, or if you're looking for that mint green just to go with different case aesthetics. I personally would love the black one or the white one. I think the white one might be my better one just because the outlines of it are all black. I think it looks really good for any case. So their Apollo is their $1,000 gaming PC, and this is when we start getting to enthusiast level of gaming. And we've got a Ryzen 5 3600, an amazing processor at an amazing price point. This is probably one of my favorite processors that have come out in recent history just because of how much value you are getting for in a processor that is so good. The single core performance on this processor, which is basically what you're going to be using for gaming, is crazy good as well. The multi-core performance with basically all AMD processors are amazing. Again, that's within the Ryzen generation. I probably wouldn't get any AMD processor that is not a Ryzen processor. But they also have an AMD Radeon RX 5600 XT. This is a really good graphics card as long as they are updating the BIOS to the most current version. So when AMD first released the 5600 XT card, there was this really big kind of debacle that was going on because at first they were trying to put this out as a GTX 1660 Ti killer, which is a really good 1080p graphics card. But then NVIDIA released the RTX 2060 KO, which is coming at the same price point as the AMD RX 5600 XT. And it basically just kind of killed its competition. So they had to release a new BIOS revision that increased the power and thermal limits for this graphics card to make it perform much better than it originally did. So this basically really helped out a lot of people getting better value for their gaming card. You're gonna be able to play 1080p games, 1440p games at really good FPS. I mean, if you're playing competitive, this is an amazing GPU to do that on. So we have an ATX ASRock B450 Pro 4 AM4 motherboard. This is a good, fairly budget ATX motherboard. You're gonna be able to have a lot of upgradability. If you want to put on some extra different PCIe cards, you're gonna have the ability to do that later in the future. If you want to put on like an Elgato capture card, if you're looking into streaming and stuff like that, this has got the ability to do that as well. Now you do only have a 120GB SSD. Now again, that's kind of it's kind of sucky in terms of storage. Now we have the standard 16GB of DDR4 memory. Everything is basically the same. Except with this upgrade option, you are able to go up to a RTX 2060 for $70 extra. Now, again, I probably wouldn't recommend doing this because you're basically just paying $70 extra for the NVIDIA feature set and the RTX capabilities. Now, I guess if you're really looking for RTX, I probably wouldn't buy an RTX 2060 because a 2060 does not really offer that good of RTX performance, especially with RTX turned on, because this is the lowest card that NVIDIA offers, and the performance head that you get from the RTX on option in most games is so detrimental that you would rather just not play with RTX on and not have to deal with that crazy frame stutter and that really low FPS that you really shouldn't be having at this price point of a card. Now again, if you are into other stuff other than just gaming and you need stuff like CUDA for different tasks, I know a lot of different workstation uses can take advantage of CUDA as well as the NVENC encoder if you're really into video editing and stuff like that. You know, if you're really needing those features from NVIDIA, then you might want to pay $70 extra for that RTX 2060. But if you're just looking for straight FPS, I would definitely go with the RX 5600 XT because they're both going to perform roughly around the same. Now, I think that this is going to be the last PC that I'm going to reviewing because all of these gaming PCs have been pretty good for as all of the ones that I've been looking at. They have all been pretty good value. They've all had pretty fairly new parts, which is great that they're doing now, that they're offering some really good value, newer generation parts to put into their good value gaming PCs. So this is their Titan. This is a $1,400 gaming PC. This is for real enthusiasts who are looking to not just game, but are looking to make content, who are looking to stream, who are looking to do other workstation tasks and need this processing power in order to do that. So for our CPU, we have in Ryzen 7 3700X, an amazing processor that AMD has released. It's actually probably my processor that I'm going to be getting here in a little bit to help with my video editing and all that different stuff. As well, we've got a 240GB SSD. Now this is a little bit low for having a sort of workstation vibe to this gaming PC. You know, myself, I'd probably add a little bit more storage, and I wish that they would add that option. I think that VRLA Tech would really benefit from having the option of being able to have a higher storage capacity on their SSDs and have a higher storage capacity on their hard drives, because I think that a lot of people would opt for that and they could definitely use that to their advantage to make a little bit more cash, because I think that installing a 1TB hard drive on everything is a little bit low, especially when you're getting up to these higher price points. Now again, everything is basically the same except you having a little bit better of a power supply. You're getting a 650 watt power supply instead of that standard 500 watt that's been on every model before this. We get again 16GB of memory, but the video card is a really nice video card. It's a GeForce RTX 2070 Super. Again, an amazing graphics card for basically any gaming that you would want to do. 4K gaming, I guess it could tackle that. And if you're actually looking to play games with ray tracing on, this is going to be the kind of card to kind of do this. So I'm really happy to see that VRLA Tech has been updating their site and they're really caring about what's going into their computers. Again, I would love to review one of their computers myself, but you know, I gotta work up some more money and be able to kind of get all that stuff going in. Now, if you guys want to go check out VRLA Tech for yourself, or if you guys want to buy one of their PCs, I'm going to put the link to their website down in the description below. I'm also going to link my video before this, I think I made about a month ago, but you guys can go check out the comment section below to see some of the purchase history from those people, just to see the reputation that these guys are having and kind of the experience that some of the users have been having. I've had a lot of views on that video and a lot of people have been kind of talking about their experience with it. As well, if you guys have ever bought one, you know, feel free to leave a comment down below talking about your experience with it, how the shipping was, how the quality was, how was it when you turn it on, like, are all the temperatures good, and, you know, just how's your experience with the company, so you can help out some, you know, fellow people who are looking to go and buy one of their PCs. So guys, thanks for watching. If you have any questions about this company, you know, leave it down in the description, or you guys can go to my channel Discord. Leave a like if you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.